Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10 and support the channel at the same time. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and welcome to another edition of the Magic the Gathering Market Watch. Modern's starting to heat up a little bit this week. We had some big Modern tournaments, including Grand Prix Prague last weekend. There's definitely some ripple effects from those results that you'll see here today. Standard, a little bit slow this week. You'll see that as we get into it, due to the fact a lot of people are already thinking about the next Standard meta, and they're kind of holding onto their wallets a little bit now. Commander's even cooling off a little bit after some really big weeks over the last few months. So we're going to dive into all of this quickly before we get started. If you check out the description below, you'll find a few ways to help support the channel, one of which is our Patreon page. You're also going to find links to products on Amazon down there, including links to some pre-orders for Guilds of Ravnica products like booster boxes. And also, Flipside Gaming still offering a promo code for our viewers. So hopefully you can save some cash while you support the channel. As always, thank you not only to the folks that look at those links, but to all the viewers. Y'all make the channel what it is, so thank you, and let's get into it. Alright, let's begin with the top 5 standard legal cards that have lost value this week. You're going to see a lot of Magic 2019 cards on here, which kind of makes sense since a lot of those are still being opened. Also, you'll notice that some of the cards that are declining in value are cards that maybe didn't quite live up to expectations over this last meta. Number 5 actually fits that description pretty well. Ajani Adversary of Tyrants down $1.02 to $11.12. So everything I just said, more packs being open, as well as a card that was underperforming in this past meta. Now, this is one to watch in the future, though. Even though early on, players were trying to make this work in Knights decks and other small white creature decks, it didn't quite get there. Those decks are still kicking around. You'll play against them on Magic Online or smaller tournaments typically, but they just haven't been able to put up the big results that a lot of people were hoping for. However, post-rotation, when we have less cards to choose from, this card does feel a little bit better. Also, Boros is a guild in the next set, and we know Boros likes its small creatures, and maybe you will see some sort of either White Weenie or Boros Weenie aggressive deck that will want a Johnny. So this is one you'll definitely want to keep an eye on. Number 4, Tezzeret Artifice Master, down $1.13 to $12.08. And this card's even more awkward than a Johnny, actually. This did not put up the results a lot of people were expecting from this previous meta. And what's weird about this one is even though rotation's about to happen, we're going to lose a lot of cards from the Kaladesh block that work well with this, which means maybe this card never gets off the ground. Now, we did see a little bit of play early on from this card in the mono blue artifact decks. However, those decks aren't even running this anymore, at least not the successful versions. And even though I have seen this played a little bit in Legacy and some Dimir artifact builds and such, I don't know if it's going to catch on there either. This will continue to drop. Number 3, Sarkhan Fireblood, down $1.58 to $16. So Dragon's deck started off strong in Standard, but did start to fall off a little bit. Now, last weekend, there was a 4-color Dragon deck that came in 10th place at the Star City Games Classic, but that was the best result we've seen in a major tournament in a while. I don't think they're bad decks, and I do think they have potential post-rotation because a lot of the cards are sticking around. Not all, but many of them. So you'll want to watch the card just for that reason. But for me, I'm interested in what happens with this in Modern. I have seen some mono red prison decks running this. Seems like it could be good there going forward. The Skred Dragon deck was okay too, but it hasn't put up any big results recently. So I don't know if that one's going to catch on, but definitely mono red prison could be a home for this card going forward in Modern. Number 2 is Air Elemental for Magic 2019. Oh boy, here we go again with these welcome deck cards, down $1.96 to 99 cents. So we're going to talk a lot about welcome deck cards today, especially on our next list, because Standard is really slow and there's not much else to talk about, honestly. I know sometimes people will say in the comments, why do you talk about these cards? But I do get tons of questions about them. If I don't discuss them here, I think a lot more people would be upset that I don't talk about them. So Air Elemental was available in the welcome deck. If you were a new player, you go to your LGS and you say, I want to learn Magic, and they give you a deck. Maybe you get the blue one. If you do, you got an Air Elemental. Other than that, that was the only way you could get this Magic 2019 version of the card. So because of that, some collectors of oddities and different sorts of strange cards, they wanted copies of this. And unfortunately, some people exploited that and started hiking prices up quite a bit on cards that really don't have a whole lot of value. I wouldn't consider any of these rare, but they are hard to find online because you don't have a lot of LGSs breaking up welcome decks to sell Air Elementals. So we have seen some weird rides with some of the prices of these cards that could only be found in those decks. So why is this one dropping dramatically this week? Well, it was announced that we're getting a Magic sort of board game-esque style game again this holiday season. It's called Magic Game Nights, and guess what? There's a blue deck in there that's going to have a copy of this that's exactly the same as the welcome deck version. So Once people heard that, this one started to go down quite a bit. But some others are still doing okay, which we're going to see in a few moments. Number 1, Nicol Bolas the Ravager, down $3.25 to $30.97. Nicol Bolas is actually still doing pretty good in the standard meta. Looks great in the Grixis mid-range decks. It doesn't need to be in a Dragon deck to do well, and that's why this card has been able to hold the value that it has held. Although $30, $31, considering that a lot of packs of this are being open right now, still feels a little high for the card, and I do think it will continue to go down more in the coming weeks. Post-rotation, though, the sky's the limit. You never know what's going to happen, especially if Grixis colors tend to be especially good when we get the Guilds of Ravnica cards. We'll just have to kind of see what happens, but I do think Nicol Bolas will still be around in the next standard meta, too. Alright, let's move on to the top 5 standard legal cards that have gained value this week. Number 5, Wizards Lightning, up 40 cents to $1.66. So we're not seeing necessarily huge increases this week in the world of standard, but this is a good indication that this card, especially being an uncommon, is seeing a lot of play. And it looks great in those standard red aggro decks or wizard aggro decks, whatever you want to call them. Also, don't forget that this card is seeing play in modern wizard decks too, usually 4 of in those as well. So there's a lot of different players looking at this card. It's uncommon, so I don't expect it to spike to huge levels or anything like that, but it could go up maybe a little more before it stabilizes. Number 4, Waterknot from Magic 2019. This is up 52 cents to 99 cents. You guessed it, this is a card that you'll find in the blue Welcome deck. 2 copies, as a matter of fact, of this one is there, but this is the only place you can find this with the Magic 2019 set symbol on it currently. Same with this card, Radiating Lightning, up $1.33 to $1.98. Now, of course, this will be in the red Welcome deck, but that's the only place you can find it. One more of these at number 2. Appropriately, it's Befuddle, up $1.93 to $2.95. Of course, the Magic 2019 version that you can only find in the blue Welcome deck yet again. So if you enjoy collecting cards like this, you totally should. Don't let anyone tell you that's the wrong thing to do. Any way you enjoy the game is the way you should collect and play. However, don't get fooled. A lot of people are upping the prices of these, trying to take advantage of players like that. So don't spend $3 on this card. Wait a couple weeks, shop around some more. You should be able to find this thing for under $1. Number 1, Teferi, Hero of Dominaria, up $2.14 this week to $45.60. Okay, a card that actually does see play in Standard. And this one sees a ton of play in Standard. Of course, not just now in those control builds, but also the Turbo Fog decks. Having Turbo Fog enter the scene a few weeks ago was a big push for this card. It was yet another deck that just wanted 4 copies of this. But a lot of the appeal here isn't just Standard, but also Modern. This card's amazing in those Modern control decks as well. I've even seen this show up in some Legacy and Vintage decks here and there. This is extremely hot. Now, this is pushing that $46 price point at this time, so I do think it's going to start to slow down and stabilize. I don't think this card's going to lose a lot of value anytime soon, but I do think it will stabilize, maybe sit around the $40, $45 mark, at least for a little while. All right, let's move on to Modern, with the top 5 Modern legal cards that have lost value this week. And Modern actually is probably our hottest format of the week. Number 5, Leyline of the Void. The original Guild Pack version is down $2.74 to $52.24. This card got extremely hot a couple weeks ago thanks to that Vegevine deck. And I actually saw Dredge put up a good result this past week too, so I do think there's going to be a lot of players, if they don't have these, will be looking for them. However, the price point shot up so quickly that we're seeing some snapback and some normalization here. Nothing unusual. This will probably stabilize around the $50 mark and then maybe even climb back up a little more again. This is a huge sideboard card right now in so many decks. Number 4, Dark Confidant from Modern Masters 2015, down $3.33 to $61.65. We've talked a lot about Bob recently, so I don't want to spend too much time on this card, but Jund has been very inconsistent. Not to say it can't put up some really good results here and there, even in big tournaments, but just not the amount of consistency that players thought they would see from that deck back when Bloodbraid Elf was unbanned a while ago. So because of that, Dark Confidant has really taken a hit. This card's actually performing better in Legacy and Vintage now than it is in Modern. Humans deck is another place where we used to see this card. Don't really see it anymore in the successful builds of that deck. So you put it all together, this card's going to lose a little more value before it stabilizes. I could see this, though, stabilizing maybe closer to $55, $58. It's not a bad card. Still sees enough play, but not enough to warrant the $60, $65 price tags we have been seeing. Number 3, the only card that is a commander card on our Modern list this time. It's Wound Reflection, down $3.79 to $29.20. So this is a Shadowmoor rare, and when there was interest in this card, it tended to get very spiky because, of course, this set had a lower print run than many other sets from that era. But what was the big attraction for so long about this card? I mean, if you've been watching our market watches, you've been seeing this go up week after week after week. And it was really all about Commander 2018. A lot of folks took this card and put it into the Subjective Reality deck as an upgrade. It worked well with some of the cards in there, like Sower of Discord, for example. But many more players were taking Xantcha out of the Nature's Vengeance deck and just building around her and creating these decks that whittled down their opponent's life totals, and this was a key part of that strategy. So because this card was so hot for so long, yeah, it was due for some snapback. That's what you're seeing here as this finally starts to normalize a little bit. Number 2, Liliana of the Veil, Innistrad, down 396 to 95.49. Modern Masters 2017, down 413 to 92.56. So she's seeing a little bit of normalization as well due to the fact that she is seeing less play than she was in the past, basically. Again, Jund is an issue for her. The inconsistencies there have some people looking at other decks. Also, Liliana the Last Hope has moved into her territory just a little bit in many decks, even if it's just pushing one copy out for a copy of Last Hope. You are seeing just percentage-wise a little less play from her across the board. Now, does she become a $50 card next week? No, of course not, because she sees tons of play in Legacy as well as Modern decks still. But, yeah, you know what? $100 felt like a high price point for the amount of play she was currently seeing. I feel like $90 is most likely where this card starts to stabilize. And number 1, Engineered Explosives, down 452 to 95.50. This is the original 5th Dawn version of the card. Another card that's been extremely hot recently and was due for some snapback and normalization. Now, this has been a key part of those Ironworks combo decks that have been popular recently, not to mention it's in so many sideboards in Legacy and Modern right now that this card was just jumping and jumping. Finally, we get some relief. I don't think it's going to go down a whole lot. Probably settles down in that $90 to $95 range, at least for the short term. All right, let's move on to the top 5 Modern legal cards that have gained value this week. Number 5 is Hangerback Walker, up $2.99 to $13.31. So this card started to get hot a few weeks ago because it's a key part of that Vegevine deck. However, it got even bigger this week because Hardened Scales Affinity came in first place at GP Prague. This is a key card, a 4 of in that deck. I expect that this will continue to go up over the next few weeks. Number 4 is Grinding Station, up $3.24 to $7.60. So the Sword of the Meek combo deck has been kicking around for a really long time in Modern now. Hasn't put up necessarily any big results in major tournaments recently, but you will see updated deck lists of these doing well sometimes in smaller tournaments or on Magic Online. But recently, Saffron Olive this past week did feature that deck on MTG Goldfish, so it drew a lot of attention on this card. Most likely, this will go back down next week, and we won't even remember this happening. But you never know. If that deck can show up in a big tournament and put up results, then this card could go up in the long term, so one to keep an eye on. Number 3 is Horizon Canopy, up $3.88 to $80.04. This is the original Future Sight version. So aside from the fact that this card is amazing in so many Modern and Legacy decks, why is it going up this week? Well, it's a key part of some popular ones right now. Hardened Scales Affinity being one of them, of course. But another important Modern deck right now, Banned Spirits, running this. So because of those decks, this gets a lot more attention this weekend. However, this is just one of those cards that players are always going to gravitate to. It's a key staple in just so many big decks. And that original version with that Future Sight border and unique art is always going to have a lot of appeal. Number 2 is, of course, Hardened Scales. Khans of Tarkir version going up $2.70 to $5.99, with Commander Anthology Volume 2 going up $5.52 to $8.99. The Commander 2016 version was also going up this week, just not quite as much because that price was already a little inflated, so I didn't put it on here. But know that that version is also increasing at least a little over $1. So, Hardened Scales Affinity, yeah, it's here. It's a thing. We'll have to see how it performs in the coming weeks. If it starts to fall off in favor of regular Affinity over time, then this card will go back down. But if it starts to replace regular Affinity as the deck that's putting up the better results, watch out for this one. And number 1 is Gilt Leaf Palace, up $6.21 to $30.97. Elf decks in Modern are kicking around. They do well from time to time, sometimes putting up a good result. But the reason this card is being pushed as much as it is because not only is it a great Modern deck, but Elves are also a great casual tribe to play with. And the Lorwyn set had a lower print run than most sets around that time period even. This card has never been reprinted. It really could use a reprint to stabilize it a little bit at this point. Let's move on to the Vintage Spotlight, where Unlimited continues to be hot, as you'll see when we go through our list today. I mentioned this last week, but I think sellers and store owners are more interested now in trading in Unlimited than they are Alpha and Beta. Alpha and Beta is very expensive. It's hard to move sometimes. Unlimited is a little more reasonable, but collectors are still interested, as well as 93-94 players. So I think the product just kind of comes and goes faster, and it's better for the stores overall. Secondly, counterfeiting is a problem for high-priced cards right now. A lot of people are scared to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, especially online, for a card that they don't see in person, just because of the threat of counterfeiting. And I think the threat of counterfeiting is worse than the actual counterfeiting problem, because sure, people counterfeit anything. You see newer cards counterfeited, but I'm not going to buy an Alpha Black Lotus unless I can feel it and touch it and see it. So these online stores sometimes don't have a good way to move cards like that. So they are turning to more affordable options, and I think that's what's happening to Unlimited here for the most part. Swords to Plowshares is our first card, up $12.48 to $29.99 from Unlimited. This is not on the reserve list. Of course, it's been reprinted many, many times, but that Unlimited version is very hot percentage-wise this week, as people are definitely buying these up. Howling Mine up $39.36 to $100.98, another Unlimited card that is not a reserve list card and has been reprinted. Another good 93-94 card, though, as well. Underground Sea, this one's from the revised, though, up $45.99 to $799.95. And, of course, this is on the reserve list, but I just wanted to feature this to point out that there is a $800 card now from the revised. That's insane! And, of course, Underground Sea is just very sought after, getting really hard to find in good condition, especially. So it's not too surprising, but yes, we are there. Alright, back to Unlimited for these last few cards. Lich of $52.40 to $129.99. This is on the reserve list. This never got reprinted after Unlimited, so this is the cheapest version of the card you can find. Savannah Lions, another good 93-94 format card, of $56.49 to $149.99. Big percentage spike there. And finally, Copy Artifact. Again, this is on the reserve list, but it did get a reprint and revised, of $123.33 to $199.99. So if you still want this card, the revised version is much more accessible, but the Unlimited version had a huge spike this week. Next is our Commander Spotlight, and you're going to notice it's a lot smaller this week, as the Commander secondary market is finally starting to slow down a little bit. It was a long time coming. We had weeks upon weeks of huge cards lighting up, thanks to first Battle Bonds coming out and cards that people were picking up to build around cards there, and then of course Commander 2018 upgrade cards. We were due for the market to smooth out a little bit. Looks like it's finally happening for now. One card that's on here, though, Retether, up $1.28 to $5.98. Fantastic upgrade for the Adaptive Enchantment deck from Commander 2018. Ink Eyes, Servant of Oni. This is the original Betrayers of Kamigawa version, up $1.50 to $7.56. So last week, a number of different versions of this card were going up. The other ones calmed down a little bit, but this one is still going up slightly. And of course, this is for people that are building the Yuriko deck right now. Yuriko can be found in the Commander 2018 Subjective Reality deck. A lot of people are just pulling her out of there and building around her, making these ninja decks. And another card that also is going up because of that deck, Higer, the Still Winds, up $2.38 to $4.26. Alright, one card in our Pauper Spotlight this week, and it's the Black Lotus of Pauper, Oubliette. Up $1.11 to $39 this week. Actually, it looks like it's going up, but this card keeps going up and down, up and down. It doesn't seem to want to break the $40 mark. We'll see if that changes. Eventually, it will change if they don't reprint it. It would be nice, though, if they reprinted this one for Pauper players. Of course, this is good in those mono black decks. Alright, with that being said, that's our Market Watch for this week. A little shorter this week, not as much going on. I do think Modern will stay hot for the next few weeks as we're in that in-between time with Standard. Also, Standard will start heating up as some of those Guilds of Ravnica previews begin coming out. We'll see some tonight, as a matter of fact. So until then, hey, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible by the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.